How did you decide how many children you were going to have? For most of my life, I wasn't sure I wanted any at all. When my husband married me, he knew he would prefer to have kids someday, but was okay not having any if I didn't want any. Even with my doubts, I knew I wasn't sure enough to permanently close off that option. One day, out of the blue, I had a dream that I had a child, and really enjoyed it. It was like a switch had been flipped within me, and I was suddenly instilled with the desire for a child. We ended up waiting a year before deciding to try. In that time, I processed my fears and concerns about taking the big leap, and the desire never faded. It took us a year before we were successful, and after that had our firstborn. I didn't feel ready to make a call on whether we would just have one, or more, but to enjoy the one I had for now and see how we felt as time went on. As an only child myself, I felt well prepared to parent and only if we stuck with that decision, being very aware of the benefits and drawbacks of being an only. Right around the time firstborn turned 2, the switch flipped again, though this time not triggered by anything in particular. I felt like I wanted and was ready to have another. Firstborn was getting more independent, which would make it easier to take on a baby again, and I felt like 3+ years seemed like a good age gap between children. My second pregnancy was much rougher, physically and mentally. I felt sick and had chronic insomnia throughout most of the third trimester. We set up the crib again when I was 8 months along, and it dawned on me that I would have to go through all the newborn/baby work again. Teach him to nurse, wake up in the middle of the night for months, and work towards getting him to sleep on his own. Go through the early phase where he won't be able to tell me exactly what he wants/needs. Potty training again. It wasn't a sense of dread, but a realization that we were going to be repeating everything we had already been through with our firstborn. When my second was born, we again felt like we weren't ready to make a call on whether we were done or wanted more, and to see how time felt as we went on. But I felt more of a sense of this might be the last one than I did with my firstborn. I didn't look upon his infancy with sadness, but making sure I thoroughly enjoyed all my favorite parts of having an infant. And I did. Older son is a fantastic big brother, and they developed a strong bond as they both grew older. I certainly understood and felt some desire for more. But as younger son grew from infancy into toddlerhood, I more frequently found myself at the limit of what I could handle. Yelling more than I should when I felt overwhelmed, stressed, or like I didn't have control over 2 boisterous young boys who loved to feed off each other. I realized that I was not gifted with a large supply of people energy, and was frequently at the limit of what I could handle. When younger son was close to turning 2, my husband had to have major surgery that carried a very small, but still present risk of mortality. I was faced with considering the possibility that I could come out of this a single mom of 2 small kids, without a huge support network. And how difficult that situation would be with just the 2 I had. Those factors led to me slowly coming to the conclusion that it was a good idea to be done. I really didn't want to go through another pregnancy and childbirth. I cherished the relationship our 2 children have with each other, and had some concern about how a third would upset the dynamic. Though I had some openness to a third, I felt that I would definitely be done after 3, while my husband wanted to be open to 4, so we wouldn't be stuck with the odd man out dynamic of 3. If 2 taxed my energy this much, it felt insane to consider a third, much less a 4th, especially if something tragic happened and I became a single mom. By stopping at 2, I could invest more time and energy in each of them as individuals than if we had more. I felt our family already had a pretty ideal dynamic, and that nobody was missing, as some describe when they know they want more children. My husband came through the surgery just fine. He originally wanted to wait to take permanent measures until our younger son was 3, which sounded reasonable to me. But circumstances made it pragmatic and beneficial to make the call sooner, and we made the permanent decision to be done before younger son was 2.5. Having had no siblings, and seeing the gift my sons are to each other, I do feel some slight twinges of envy towards those who can handle, and do great having more than 2 children. But ultimately, I still have felt no regret, as the decision to stop at 2 was right for our family. The switch of desire feeling definitively ready for another never flipped, and seems shut off for good. There has been a sense of relief about having made the decision to be done, especially before the ideal window of time to have a third was over. I now feel I can fully invest myself in enjoying seeing my 2 grow up.